It's the first week of Advent. Let's talk about hope. To begin in a place of hope is to begin in a place of absence. For hope is that confident expectation of something we do not yet possess. After all, it's because we lack something that we hope for it. And as Paul wrote to the Romans, hope that is seen is no hope at all. Who hopes for something they already have? Advent begins in a place such as this, a place of hope, and therefore also a place of absence. So what is it that we lack during the season of Advent? What is it that is absent? Advent is the season of hoping and anticipating and expecting the birth of Jesus Christ. And while it may seem odd to anticipate or expect or to hope for something that's already happened, we do this as a way of practicing our hope for the return of Jesus Christ, the return of the King, and the kingdom come. As a way of doing this, we often retell and remember the stories of those who came alongside of Jesus. People like Mary and Joseph, or Elizabeth and Zechariah, or even the shepherds in the field outside of Bethlehem, as well as the stories of all of those who came before Jesus as they were awaiting the coming of the Messiah. It's important to remember that while we often entered this time with this kind of joyful hope, the situation of those first participants in Advent, those who were living in Jesus' time, was a lot different. You probably could describe their hope as being more of a desperate hope. These folks lived under the harsh oppression of the Roman Empire, which included heavy taxation, random acts of violence, and the everyday scarcity that comes from a lack of resources. Beyond that, they lived without the comfort or concern of their very own religious leaders, who themselves were caught up in this spirit of desperation. For many of them, the situation was beginning to feel quite hopeless, because it felt as though the glory of God, the light and presence of God's being, had departed them. And without the glory of God, what hope can there be? And yet, it's exactly at times just like this that the dawn of God's glory tends to break over the land. And it's through God's glory that hope is born into and out of hopeless situations. Mary and Joseph, Elizabeth and Zechariah, and even those shepherds in the field knew this because they knew the history of their people, and they knew the story of God's relationship with them. This is a story of promise and covenant, of exodus and exile, of return and rebuilding. It's a history of hope and God's faithfulness. And it's also a history of those times when it felt as though God's glory had departed them. The story of Ichabod's birth is one of these moments, and it's where we will begin our journey of Advent as we head toward the events of that first Christmas night. If you're not familiar with the story of Ichabod or his birth, you're not alone. It's not one of those stories that we talk about a lot during Sunday school. But I promise that by the time we reach Bethlehem and another baby boy born in a manger, we will have a better understanding of how Ichabod's story helps us understand Advent, as well as the birth of glory himself, Emmanuel, Jesus Christ, God with us.